Hey guys, welcome to the Indigo Bone Podcast. I'm here with Saida and Diana, and we welcome you guys into this conversation that we're going to start having on a regular basis. I think right now we're talking about doing it bi-weekly. So we're excited to have you guys with us and to share the conversation that we've been having for the past 6 months. So my name is Kelli Anderson, and I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, and I'm also definitely a mystic. Um, Spirituality has been a central focus of my life, really my whole life. I was a minister for several years, and I'm also a marketing professional. So, a background as a marketing professional. And I am here with Saida and Diana. As I said, Saida, why don't you tell us about your background?
Sure. My name is Saida Boujemaaoui. I am also a mom. I have 2 kids. I am also a self-love coach. I work with women and help them empower themselves. I am also a content creator. I have been for businesses B2B for the past 8 years. And yeah, what else can I say about myself? I am actually from or like originally from North Africa and I live in Europe. So we have a big time difference between us, but if we feel close, nevertheless.
For sure.
Diana.
Thank you, Saida. My name is Diana Vilmenay. I am also a mom. I have 2 kids. I am living in the DC metro area. When I am not speaking, talking, and counseling people with astrology, I practice part time as a contract lawyer. I need to stop saying all the time. Like, excuse me. So I didn't think I was actually going to start doing the thing. So that's pretty much about me. And so I'm happy to be here because this entire conversation started, Kelly, with an invitation that you had offered on a social media platform for us to get together as part of a study group. And
Mhm.
this has evolved a little bit from that. So I'm glad to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we will go ahead, Kelly.
So we back in the spring of 2025, I was really at a point where, I have done a lot of studying. When I went through kind of a reawakening in 2022, is when I went further than, just mainstream astrology. So I had a lot of astrology knowledge, but it wasn't really rooted in like a foundation of a specific kind of teaching or that much of a structure. And so I started really pursuing it in 2022. And after 3 years, I had, done some studying online. I've done some courses and things like that. But I was really just wanting to have real life conversations with people who think like, along the same lines or not even think exactly like me, but people I could learn from. And we were on a social media platform, which I'm going to go ahead and just mention, like we were on Threads, and there's a lot of great astrology conversation on there, as well as a lot of conversation about a variety of other things. And so over time, Saida and I had connected and had started to kind of chat, like DM each other here and there and talk about astrology. And then as we got into sort of moving toward the spring, it was probably around February. I was like, I really need to be intentional about this. And I had been saying for 2 years, I want to start a local astrology circle, but all of the connections that I had made had been online since like the previous summer. And so that was the point at which I was like, this really needs to be something where we're intentional with it and let's see who else is interested. And Saida was like, let's start tomorrow because she has Mars in Scorpio. And I was like, no, I need to feel like it's the right time because I have Mars in Cancer. And so I was like, I don't know. I'm a little nervous, but Saida was like, let's go for it. And so we set a date, which was really good for me actually. I needed somebody who was going to be like, let's put a marker down. And then we started kind of seeking other people. We really didn't want it to be more than maybe like five, like 3 to 5 was our goal. And then Diana, was really resonating with where we were at. And this is the part at which I want to say, like, the three of us all have the moon in Virgo. So that's going to be a part of this discussion today because it's a big part of really what we feel has drawn us together. I mean, it's one thing to be like, we are drawn together because we all have an interest in astrology. We are all have an interest in the arts. We're all, um, mature women, not old, but mature. We're all over 35, that's for sure. And so there was and moms, so we had a lot of other things in common, but there's this other beautiful story that's being told in the astrology synastry and also just in kind of the time that we're in as far as transits. And Diana pointed this out to us when we were kind of talking about what we were going to do with our first episode and how we wanted to proceed with it and where we were gonna go, and she was like, "This whole thing has been really a nodal transit story with the nodes being in Pisces and Virgo." So I don't wanna take up more time, but, like, let maybe Diana can talk to us a little bit about what's happening with the nodes in Pisces and Virgo right now, and has been gonna go on for a
Yes. And don't forget the fun fact that we just found out that the moon is in Virgo right now, and it's conjunct my moon, conjunct Ellie's rising. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Diana, what's your degree?
So it's
Your moon is also a
close. It's applying to a conjunction to my moon. So it's a wide conjunction. It's
yeah.
getting yeah. So I I just want to back it up a little bit because I'm not sure what the folks who are going to be watching this how much they know astrology. So I'm making some
Yes.
assumptions about um, what people know about astrology, but just to really sort of sum it up for someone who doesn't know a ton, try to keep this really basic. So the nodes of the moon are the nodes that we're referring to are points connected to the moon. In astrology, they're considered very faded points, and when they're activated, we see themes set in associated with those points. And so, for example, earlier this year, the nodes of the moon moved into the signs of Virgo and Pisces. And what that means is that for me and for you, Saida, and for Kelli, there have been a lot of sort of overarching themes and things happening, situations, people, places happening in our lives that really reflect what I would consider sort of the circumstances of Pisces and Virgo.
Mm.
For example, when the three of us meeting has a lot to do with Virgo themes. I'm going to pause right here because I'm like losing my mind is doing like all over the place. I need to practice up. So one moment.
is the
Yeah. So earlier this year, um, the nodes of the moon moved into Pisces and Virgo, and we are experiencing a lot of themes related to the expression of those zodiac signs right now. So right now we are seeing on the Pisces side of things, the North Node being in Pisces, um, people, places, and things, situations that have a lot to do with the expression of Pisces. So um, spirituality being one example, and an exploration of our different what spirituality means to us, what faith means to us.
Mm.
It's associated with it's also associated with a collective. And so we are seeing, for example, how on a larger scale, mostly how our actions affect each other, the impact of those things. Pisces is connected with pharmaceuticals and drugs, and we're seeing the effects or seeing situations play out that have a lot to do with, for example, the drug epidemic in many
Mm.
places across the world related to the things that we put in our body. There's a lot more to that, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we talk about how the Pisces and Virgo themes are coming up for each of you, Saida and Kelli. But so there has been like an increase and a of themes related to Pisces, spirituality, faith, water, empathy,
Mm.
collective, drugs, and others. And on the Virgo side of things, we've seen the expression of Virgo, where the south node of the moon is, um, with themes that have a lot to do with our health, taking care of our minds and our bodies,
Mm.
workers. Uh, it's interesting that we all met as part of a study group, and studying and books and knowledge.
Mhm.
Very much in line with the expression of Virgo. So we met under those circumstances. We met and came together to talk about astrology under sort of the premise that we're going to get together and really like become really, more skilled Virgo at some of these astrological techniques, ways to read different types of charts to look at, for example. And somehow our conversation, which was very much more, I think, more focused, or the original intent being more focused around getting together as a study group, has
Yeah.
evolved into more Pisces. Us getting together and talking about a lot more than just the knowledge of the stars. And we spent
Mhm.
time talking about other things as well.
Yeah, and that's why none of us have Pisces placements, right?
I have Jupiter in my 7th house.
Of course, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but otherwise, I don't think we do.
Well, I do have a bunch of
We do.
asteroids and my vertex in Pisces, but
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't have any planets in Pisces, but I do have my midheaven in Pisces.
right, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah, we all express the Pisces, and we all express it in different ways. But I definitely feel like just us coming together as part of the circle and talking about spirituality and plus, and how it's just very much in line with us sort of with us integrating the expressions of Pisces and Virgo.
Mm. I was gonna say too, the south node, can represent, what is diminishing
Yes.
or what is being released, and the north node can represent what is increasing or what we're magnetized toward or what is being expanded. And so Saida and I both have Virgo in the first house and Pisces in the seventh house. And Diana, you have Virgo in the fourth house and Pisces in the 10th house. And so what that means is the first house refers, among other things, it refers to things directly to do with the self. And the seventh house refers to the other or the partner or long term commitment. It can be a lot of other things as well. I'm not going to name all of them. And then the fourth house is about the roots of the life, about the internal, about the private life, about the home life, among other things. And then the 10th house is about the external or the public life or the career. And so what's interesting is, you know, we were all kind of studying on our own. I mean, we had connected with other people at different times. All three of us have done, have been online and have, gleaned information and, been studying on our own. But this relational aspect, I love that you said that because Pisces has really brought out and increased the relational dynamic of it. Whereas, it's instead of these three, like in the library with the glasses on, like just focused on, let's focus on the task and like, very Virgo. It has just really blossomed and evolved and we're sharing, as our lives are unfolding and we live, I live in the Virginia Beach area, which isn't super far from DC, but I'm about 4 hours south of Diana. I'm definitely a different dynamic as far as the environment because I'm like in a resort town and Diana's like in the center of what's happening as far as like where the government sits and all of that. So it's just we're both on the East Coast, and then Saida being in Europe, so we're just kind of spread out in that way. And then we all have very different cultural backgrounds. And that's one of the things that I've loved about this is that it's brought us together And we have a lot of similarities energetically, even though our stories are very different. So Saida has a background, has a degree in anthropology, has worked in the tech world, has been a writer. Diana has a background as an attorney, is still practicing law. And then, my background is pretty diverse between the time that I was traveling as a missionary and then a sales and marketing professional. So it's amazing as we're telling our own stories and they're unfolding in very different circumstances in different places, and even like our history. So, like the last time we met for, study group, which is what we still call it, but it's like our lady chat, like it is our girl time, and we welcome the men and we welcome all genders, but it just happens to be that there's three women, so we are who we are, right? But the last time we were talking, it came out that, and this is after 6 months of meetings, that, Saida has, grew up singing. And then, Diana has this love of singing and has always, and then I have just this very strong, like, connection with music. And then all of us love, dancing. We're not all out on the salsa floor like Saida is, with her Venus and Capricorn and embodying that. And but it's just beautiful to, as far as one of the ways of learning, and even though this is not an astrology specific podcast, we're all heavy in astrology. We practice astrology. We all three read charts for other people. We consider Diana as our senior astrologer because she is the one who's like has retained the most about all the systems, and we're always like, help us understand this, Diana. But so we do refer to her that way. But as far as like all of us, have input when it comes to our different, things that we've learned and everything about astrology. But at the same time, it's just like watching as like the chart is literally unfolding in front of us and we're going, oh my gosh, we have that in common. Like who would have thought we have this in common or we have that in common? And that's just been a really neat way of not just learning astrology, but like Diana has already said, of really integrating it. So it's been an amazing experience so far, and I'm looking forward to as many more months or years as we have connection. But other thing I want to just mention before, and anybody else can jump in, is as far as like the North Node and Pisces. And um, so for Virgo, there is a tendency in Virgos to be very like self-reliant, very independent. With the Virgo moon piece, and you guys can probably really talk to this. We also kind of have maybe a tendency to isolate a bit when we're going through things. And so there's this pull from the Pisces North Node to really do the opposite, to open up, to express, to be more transparent, and to allow ourselves to develop these interdependent relationships, because this is really like the goal. It's not just to like, if I could do it by, I'm just going to tell you the truth. If I could do it all by myself, I probably would. I probably would. And I'm a people person. You can kind of tell how chatty I am. I am a people person, but at the same time, I also am very like, you got to, pull yourself together and get this done. And we're just not in a time in life, in the world right now where that's not the message. The message is very much more toward connection, the collective, and it's not just about me and what I'm struggling with or what I'm trying to do. It's about how can we do this? How can we move forward together? Which is why I'm not doing a podcast alone, but I am doing it with my lovely Virgo moon besties. So, what else, guys?
Yeah. Somebody has decided to do construction work right now. I don't know. I started.
I can't hear it.
started.
I can't hear either. So, but if you want, I have so a couple things. First of all, I learned so much from just being able to speak with you both, and I love how um you pull together just like something I'm always struggled with because of just having my moon. I'm having a Virgo moon in the fourth house is I am very much a hermit, like
Yeah.
talk, and that's where it's usually where I default to. And so I think that I just think it's really cool that at the time that the three of us got together, um, Jupiter was still in Gemini, and we met to talk, to get together and talk about astrology on a social media platform. Connect
Yeah.
Either, getting together to share knowledge, sharing knowledge, Gemini on a social media platform that people use every day just to chit chat. And I just love how that has, and I know I said it a little bit before. I just love how it's evolved because when you were speaking to the Virgo, I was saying, wow, yeah, that's exactly how this has helped me in a lot of ways. Um, the curiosity of Gemini to say yes to your invitation to join it
Mm.
has led to me taking myself more out of my comfort zone of being alone and doing it myself and trying to figure it out all on my lonesome. Um,
Yeah.
has sort of has put me in a situation where I feel like, and it doesn't always happen like this because I'm really skeptical about meeting people online. I've had some I've had some pretty unsavory experiences,
Yeah.
a rendezvousing with people I've met online. But I was doing my Piscean, trusting my intuition, okay?
Mm.
I was like, I'm gonna do the North Node in Pisces. I'm gonna increase my intuition and really sit and feel for whether these two beautiful ladies are, not catfishing me and actually are who they purport themselves to be.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like there's just so much of that Pisces Virgo coming in where I was like, I'm just gonna trust faith. I'm gonna believe that they're not, shady haters or, scammers. And that we're gonna learn astrology together. Cause I really have been looking when I got on threads, I really was looking to connect with people because
Yeah. Me too.
where I am in community here, I am like, I don't know a lot of astrologers and I didn't know a lot of astrologers in the area at the time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, let me look at threads as a way of meeting with people who are also into astrology as much as I am and want to talk about it. So the opportunity presented itself at a wonderful time for me. Getting together with you and speaking with you and meeting with you both and finding out all these commonalities amongst us, despite our Piscean, like, we're different borders in some sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we're
Look at that.
yeah, right. We're crossing borders, Pisces, to get together, and it has just been like just such a blessing for me. So thank you for bringing in how much we've been releasing because it has applied to me, like releasing the Virgo. Let
Yeah.
myself. I know I cannot do this by myself. This world is too cray cray right now, and I need a lot of help. And being in community and speaking with both of you has really helped that for me.
I think we all need people, and it's like a thing of the Western society is like it's so individualized. And
Mm.
coming from like a North Africa family, and Diana, you're Haitian, so I think that you also are familiar with the like the community aspect of well, your culture. Like mine is also very community driven. So I think it's a good thing that we found each other to do this, even if it's online, because I would much rather be with you, like in the same
Yeah.
and do this, of course. Um, yeah, so I'm happy that we're doing this, and it's also like my North Node is in Gemini, so I am destined to do this, I think.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I love what Diana said when she mentioned the borders and because, Pisces is an energy of expansion and really dissolving of borders. And I knew I was gonna get emotional. It always happens. I can't help it. All those cancer placements just getting hit. But when I was young, and I was really into spirituality of a different flavor. So, but we all three have religious backgrounds, are a little bit different, but have some things in common. And one of the probably the most prominent themes of my life at the time was um getting out and traveling and getting, going to other nations and sharing spirituality in that way. And although my belief system has radically changed, that part of it has always remained just such a deep passion of mine to connect with people from other cultures. And for me, I have Jupiter in Pisces. And so it's expressed itself in my romantic relationships. It expresses in my friendships, and it's expressing through this joint project that we're doing. So one of the things I also wanted to say is that each one of us at different points over this last 6 months has just had to kind of come as we are, you know? We don't always feel like getting together. In fact, a lot of times we're going through things personally, and again, the tendency would be to, like, withdraw or to try to come, that perfectionism in the Virgo nature where we wanna come, like, ready and in the right state of mind and up the right frequency and all of these things, but yet we have been dedicated in our commitment to each other, like, okay, well, nope, we're going to do this. And in that space have opened up opportunity to receive from each other. And the thing that we needed was not going to be found through withdrawal or through saying, hey, I can't come today or, whatever. But it was found, in a collective way in that unification. And I have to say just the level of my gratitude that at 51 years old, after this long journey that I've been on, and I was away from spirituality as a central kind of, practicing anything for about 10 years. And to come back and to be gifted after a very long period of not just self-isolation, but some of it was really a spiritual time in a cave where I needed to be alone for a while. But as I've come back and it's been primarily online, which we could talk about how all of that is there's you can attach it to astrology. I'm just telling you there's an astrology story behind everything I'm saying. But coming back and, when Saida and I first connected, and I'll speak to the cultural aspect first with Saida, and we would, just chatting and we would joke with each other about like how similar we were, or we would be talking about a dating situation. And I'm like, oh my God, you sound like me. And there she is, this beautiful European North African woman. And I'm like, I feel like we share a piece of like a connection, a soul connection. And then to have Diana come in and have that same type of beautiful, like, just rapport. And I don't want to like overstate, spirituality and astrology in that sense, but like it really is about the energetics more so than the avatar that I'm in. I recognize that my avatar plays a big role in my world. I do that. I do recognize that I am a white woman at a certain age. I understand all of that, with a background or my religion or my belief system or whatever. But at the end of the day, the thing that I love about astrology is that it takes precedent over, you know, religion, philosophy, all of those things. It doesn't remove them from your life, but it supersedes them in the sense that it is very unifying. When you hear these divisive things or like, oh, your Geminis are this or this, that's just pop astrology nonsense. Because at the end of the day, we all have all of these energies, and it can bring us together, and not just about the stars or whatever, but the stories that we're living out, the stories that we're telling in our own lives. They really are interconnected, and it is a global connection. And I have a picture on the wall as you walk into my apartment, this big picture of this world map. And above it, it says there's another picture that says family. And that's really my, encoded in me. And it's something that, I felt for a long time that I had to kind of leave that behind because I stopped traveling. I haven't been outside the United States. Girls, I haven't been outside of the Hampton Roads area in 3 years, and I haven't been outside the state of Virginia since I moved here. Literally have not left the state. So, it's like you guys have brought so much beauty and so much culture and so much, exposure back into my life. And even though we're not, like I'm not traveling right now to where you are, it's still, I'm able to be surrounded by that. And that just brings me tremendous, tremendous joy. So thank you for being who you are and for accepting me into your circle. So I made the circle, but also we have to open up. We have to if we're going to, move this way and really be connected, we have to allow. And so you're allowing me to be in your life is a beautiful thing that I'm so grateful for. Thank you for that.
um Something you said, like we all have a background in different religions, and
Yeah.
also all have like all the religions, they tell us not to, how do you say it, uh not to be into astrology, or like not to,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
how maybe it's interesting to talk about that, like
Mm.
how did we like deal with that, and also why do you think that is? Like, Kelly, I know you're the one who has the most knowledge of religion, institutionalized religion, probably.
Mhm.
You have an idea about that, why it's like so forbidden?
Well, it was accepted in most circles, including of some of the major, Abrahamic faiths. It was accepted as being, a body of knowledge that everyone should relate to. And then I want to say 1600s, 1700s is when there began to be this departure. And I don't want to speak to all religions, but I can speak to Christianity. So there are ancient sacred astrology texts that were written within the context of Christianity, and to without going into like major detail, but just to kind of encapsulate it, it really became about power, and it became about knowledge as power, and it became about you know um removing these other influences because they wanted to kind of you know streamline and tailor the message of Christianity and separate it from a lot of ancient truth, and the interconnectedness of all things. And so that it would be kind of more of a standalone, this is our story. But if you go back far enough in history, you will find there's connections between astrology, especially with astrology, but ancient philosophies, ancient religions, even a lot of the stories that have been repackaged and told within Christianity specifically, um, have are coming from a mythological place. There's repetition. And that was one of the things that I discovered as I started diving in. I'm like, oh my God, that's connected. Oh my God, that's the same. Oh my God. The story, I don't want to go too far off the deep end, but like the story of Inanna, which is related to Venus, this ancient goddess story about how she goes down to the underworld and is raised from the dead in 3 days. And you know, that's offensive to a lot of people, but we're not really here to try to like indoctrinate anyone. That's not our goal. I'm just saying there is a bridge. And a lot of times it's our own, narrow-mindedness that prevents us from seeing the interconnectedness of all things. And several of the people that I have connected with on threads are still identify with a particular religion, let's say Christianity, but they see it in this broad context of understanding how much astrology is actually talked about, even in the very modified translation, modified is a kind word, of the Bible, like the current translation of the Bible that we have, even though there's been a lot of changes made and a lot of things kind of taken out of context so you can't see it immediately. When once you recognize it, you take off the rose-colored glasses and you go, "Oh, this is the same. This story is being told. This is a story that's also written in the stars." The three wise men looking for the star that was the marker, for where Jesus was born and getting to him, and they were not, wise men in this sense. They were magicians looking for Jesus. So again, we don't want to freak anybody out, and we definitely are not here to be contentious, but um, it is hard. I had already let go of a lot when I dove into astrology, and I was also able to retain what I felt was the good and the beautiful from what I had learned before, and kind of let go of the colonizer aspects of it, and just see like the metaphysical parts of the Bible. Um, but it's definitely not an easy road for someone who is trying to do both, and or is still kind of, there's a lot of people that are going to be very negative and tell you, you're listening to the devil. There's a lot of verbiage and words used to prevent people from exploring outside of the walls of their faith, you know.
Yeah, I found it so hard in the beginning to really talk about my interest in astrology and also in like my new age brand of spirituality.
Mhm.
Because, I was afraid, especially of what people in my circle would think, or like how they would judge me. Because, well, as a Virgo moon, um, well, it's said that Virgo moons are really judgmental, but we are also judged a lot, like
Yes.
people. That's like one
Mhm.
of our themes as Virgo moons. So, um, I found it really hard to start talking about astrology, and I also read tarot cards, and well, I'm into spirituality, everything. But once I started doing it, like I started letting go of that fear of judgment. Uh,
Mhm.
I also started attracting more people in my life who also were on that same wavelength as I am. So
Mm.
that's like that made my life also so much richer because I have now friends to talk about this, and yeah, it's been so beautiful. Diana,
Mm.
how has it been for you? Because you are so vocal about astrology on Threads. Your posts are great. You're always talking about astrology. How did you let go of that fear? Because I know that you also felt the same way.
Mhm.
I still have the fear sometimes. Like it was really rough for me. So I became disconnected from the Christian faith group that I was part of during the pandemic. And I really feel like in a lot of ways the pandemic was a silver lining for me because it was a forced isolation from parts of my life that
Mm.
gave me an opportunity to really start to I talk about it, I sometimes joke about it online as sort of like my de-influencing. Like I was allowing myself to by being isolated in a sense, I was de-influenced from a lot of the external teachings that I had been a part of. And I was really looking for answers for some difficult things that were going on in my life at the time, which, by the way, when look at the astrology behind it, it made so much sense. But I still have the fear, but I've become more, I would say, more empowered, being in this group and community spaces with people who are like more like-minded. I'm
Mm.
calm. So I would say it like this. I went from a very closed-minded state framework and um and I felt like I didn't have anyone for quite some time because and so it was very isolating. But
Mhm.
I also have people around me who are very understanding and who are curious, just like me, and who wanted to know more. So to like really like stop having that fear. I was like, I'm just going to talk about my experience with astrology and how, as someone who does identify, I hate labels, I hate titles, but as someone who does identify as, a follower of Jesus, like, I have identified as Christian, I do believe in God. I believe God created the stars, the moon, all the planets, the entire system. Okay. I had to figure out how to reconcile the two because the Bible that I had read and all the teachings, like you said before, that I understood all admonished astrology. I'm talking a little bit in circles, but I'm going to get to the point because I know we're getting close. So, one of the things one of my astrology teachers said the other day was how he talked about how legitimately a lot of religions did put admonitions on astrology because they wanted their adherents to really focus on the teachings of their religion, right?
Mm,
Which,
yep.
think about it that way, I get it. It totally makes sense. But what I was finding, due to my own curiosity and my desire to understand more of why astrology was a language that spoke to me, I started realizing just how much that influence impacts our perspective on things. So, opening my eyes, being on threads, attracting, like you did, Saida, more like minded people who wanted to talk about astrology, separating myself, like you did, Kelly, from sort of like being separate and apart and allowing myself time to let my mind absorb new information, sit back with those old assumptions and ideas and really think about whether they still had a place in my life. So, this has made me more confident, less fearful. I do still I still fellowship and I'm around people who think, I sound crazy or that I'm a backslider, okay? Or that, I'm some woo-woo mystic and, I've lost my mind. And I laugh at it because I feel like I'm so much more real now than I was before. And so at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I love this topic and I hope we can talk about it more in one of our upcoming episodes because I think it's so important to understand just how much the three of us have we a lot this togetherness has really helped us to overcome fears around speaking on spirituality topics that are nothing like we originally grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. And speaking about the next episode, um, we're not doing this podcast just the three of us. We're gonna have guests at our podcast regularly, or like we're trying to have them. No, we're gonna have them. Our first guest will be Blaze Harris, the dope therapist on TikTok. He's gonna join us next week to talk about his experience with the supernatural, and that will also we will have podcast episodes that's gonna be the three of us just talking about spirituality, not just about astrology, because today we've mainly talked about astrology. And we're gonna have episodes where we have a guest and then we're talking about experiences with the supernatural. So we're looking forward to the next episode, and hopefully we'll see you then.